Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, let me ask you two questions, one about leadership and negotiating style, and one about the big picture on German unification. Then maybe we'll give the floor to you to have our students and our fellows and professors ask some questions. Nobody negotiates alone. You had a team led by President Bush. You were the principal architect of the strategy. You had a very talented team. You had Bob Zoellick, one of the great negotiators, and Dennis Ross. What was your principle of leadership of that team? You set strategic direction. You gave Bob and Condi Rice authority to run the 2+4 negotiations. Were you in daily contact with Bob Zoellick and Dennis Ross and Condi Rice? Did you micromanage them, or did you give them a lot of authority once you had given them strategic direction?
Well, we were in pretty constant contact because we never knew what was going to come up from what country. Each of these countries, and particularly the ones who were less than wholeheartedly in favor of this, had problems. As they were subjected to their own domestic problems, and so we kept a pretty tight rein on who did what and what was said, as you know, and that was really important. And one reason we were able to do that is because I had such a close relationship with the president. I think I said at lunch, the most important thing for a Secretary of State in terms of whether he or she can be effective is their relationship with their president. Everybody in Washington, ladies and gentlemen, wants a piece of the foreign policy turf, and they'll take it if they can get it. So you need to have look, everybody makes mistakes. Secretaries of State make mistakes all the time. So you need a president who will support you and protect you and defend you even when you're wrong. I had that wonderful relationship with this president because we'd been friends for 35 years. He was my daughter's godfather. I had run all of his political campaigns. You don't see that very often. And so nobody was going to get between me and my president. So we had a mechanism that functioned very effectively and very well, and we didn't have any lone rangers going off doing their own thing or saying something that wasn't on script. You know what I mean?
I do, and I remember observing as a younger diplomat, you had a very closely integrated team of people. From Larry Eagleburger to Bob Zoellick to Janet Mullins to Dennis Ross to Margaret Tutwiler, and you got together every morning.
Bob Kimmett,
to talk about strategy and tactics.
Right.
Is that part of the success?
Let me tell you something else that might interest your students here in diplomacy. When my appointment was first announced, and I went over to the State Department and said, I want to tell you something. I'm going to be the White House's man at the State Department. I'm not the State Department's man at the White House. All the Foreign Service people said, oh my gosh, that's awful. But guess what?
It worked.
Toward the end, when they found out that we were going to control foreign policy, the State Department, not the Defense Department, not the NSC, not because of my relationship with President Bush, that's what the Foreign Service wants. They want to be in the action. So they want a strong Secretary of State. And they were, you can speak for them, I can't, I wasn't in the Foreign Service, but I think they were very happy when they realized that we were going to be the president's #1 advisor on formulating and implementing foreign policy.